Hello and welcome to the next episode of the FoF Podcast. I'm Austin Thomas.
I'm Connor Lewick.
And today we're going to be looking at the training camps right up to the start of the preseason, which happens to be tomorrow, or whenever this video is going to be posted, it's probably going to be today. So make sure to look forward to that. But before that begins, let's just look over what has happened during training camp and some of these big headlines and some of our thoughts that are coming up on the season. So make sure to make sure to leave comments if you have any questions for us, and please subscribe if you aren't already. Any help and support that we could get is always fun to see, because we do this for fun, but we love to see the support that's shown for us. So with that out of the way, let's get into the first part of the episode and the injury report. All right, so the first part of the injury report, probably a very big injury for the Indianapolis Colts. Quenton Nelson going to be out 5 to 12 weeks. Now, 5 weeks, if you're looking at the lower end of this injury, 5 weeks, that's not too bad. You're going to be out for probably week 1 of the season, but Quenton Nelson will be back pretty quickly. But if you're looking at the 12 weeks, ooh, that sucks for the Colts being the best offensive lineman in the NFL.
No doubt. He's no doubt the best offensive lineman in the NFL. And he's only like 25 years old. You kidding me? He's a building block for their future, and it sucks to see him get injured like right now. But you gotta pray that he is not injury prone in the future.
Yeah, that I didn't even think about that being in the future, because I mean it doesn't look like it's gonna be like a lasting injury. What I'm seeing. It's not gonna be a lasting injury, which is thankful. Yeah. But it's definitely going to affect how they play, and especially Jonathan Taylor.
100%.
Jonathan Taylor is going to be hurting after this one.
Oh, yeah.
Losing his main offensive lineman. Now, they still have a good O-line.
Oh, absolutely.
They still have a good O-line without him, but it's not even close to as good as it would have been with him.
Okay.
And that's going to lead to some problems for their running game, for their pass protection. Talking about pass protection, the next injury, Carson Wentz, he's going to be out basically on the same timetable as Quenton Nelson, 5 to 12 weeks. And Carson Wentz, honestly, I don't think he was that good heading into the season, but it's still a blow for a team that was looking to compete this year, and he's going to be out for a little bit. And their backup is
Jacob Eason,
right? Yeah.
I mean, Carson Wentz. If Colts fans are going to go out there and hype him up like he's the next Andrew Luck, and he's not going to get injured behind our line. Training camp, he's getting injured. It's not looking good if he's getting injured during training camp. It's not going to end well.
Yeah, Carson Wentz back in the hospital or whatever he's going in. He's probably just calling his home the hospital by now.
Honestly.
Because he's spending half of his time in the hospital. But anyways, Jacob Eason, this could be big for him. I think Jacob Eason is a talented quarterback. He was a later round draft pick last year. Was it last year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Like
but yeah, he was a recent draft pick, a late round pick. But he was someone we saw in college that had talent, that led his team to do well.
Yeah.
And I think if he's good enough and he's progressed from where he was back in college, I think he could have a shot at becoming a primary backup to a team, or even a starter. Yeah. A low-end starter in the future. But it's all going to depend on how he's going to react to these upcoming weeks and how he's going to do in these preseason games, maybe even regular season if he can do well enough.
Absolutely.
All right, next injury we've got probably not nearly as big as the other two, but we have Minnesota wide receiver Olabisi Johnson. He's going to be on the IR with a torn ACL.
No, dude, I had him on my fantasy team.
Are you in like a 25-team fantasy league? But yeah, Olabisi Johnson, wasn't going to be a big help, but it still sucks to have some guy like that who he was going to get some receptions throughout the season, and he was going to help to white out that defense if they ever did start locking down Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Like if you've got two good corners on your team, then those other guys like Olabisi Johnson, he would have been big in those kind of games, and it sucks to see him out because he was good. I mean, he wasn't like he's not like good for the NFL.
He's good for backup.
Yeah, he's good for backup. He's a good backup wide receiver.
He's good for fifth strings.
I'd say even fourth strings he's pretty good.
Fourth
strings he's pretty good. But like I said, if they have those two corners, he could have been big in those games. But he's going to be out for the rest of the season, and the Minnesota Vikings might have somebody else try and step up into that role. But next on the injury list, we have a Marquise Brown hamstring injury. It originally didn't seem as serious, but now they're saying it's looking more and more serious and that he might actually miss time from it. So Marquise Brown, if you're a Ravens fan, yes, you have Rashod Bateman, but you still want Marquise Brown.
Yeah, those two. But Marquise Brown's your number one guy.
Marquise Brown is your number one guy for now. Maybe Rashod Bateman will take that back over by the end of the year. You never know. He has been doing very well in camp.
Don't sleep on week 1 Sammy Watkins.
Week 1 Sammy Watkins too. But you still are missing that Marquise Brown and that speed that he's showing, and you're hoping that he's going to come back from this injury fine. Yeah. But it's something that you've got to watch out for. Next one, Devontae Smith, one of the highest wide receiver draft picks in this most recent draft. He got an MCL sprain and is going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Now, that shouldn't keep him out for the start of the regular season, but for those preseason games where, as a rookie, you need those preseason games because you're going up against NFL competition now. And if you're just going to go straight into an NFL regular season game without facing that NFL competition, that is not good for you.
I mean, if you're Philly fans, if you're a Philly coach, whatever, you don't want to rush him because if you rush him, it could evolve into bigger things that just won't end well for later on in his career. Because if you rush him now, his injury gets worse, he tears his MCL, not looking good.
Yeah, and Devontae Smith is a talent that you don't want to risk that with. He is the number one receiver on that team. Yeah. Over Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor, he was a high-ish draft pick last year, but he's going to lose that number one role pretty easily to Devontae Smith, who, being the Heisman winner from last year, he has great chance to become an NFL superstar. Yeah. But with that, let's get on into our final injury here. We have Deshaun Watson, who... Well, Deshaun Watson has had plenty of news articles popping up recently, but how about add a new one? He's had a foot injury that has kept him out of the first 2 padded practices for the Texans. Now, Deshaun Watson, not someone that you're looking at for safety.
Maybe he should go and get a foot massage or something.
Probably, yeah, as long as he doesn't do something there.
As long as he's a little safe.
But, yeah, Deshaun Watson having a lot of problems entering the season, but still he's been at those training camps up until most recently. So Texans fans are looking at that backup quarterback spot who they just drafted.
They're looking at that entire roster and they're like, these are all backups.
I think Brandon Cooks could be a good second wide receiver on the team.
Backup wide receiver for number 1, yeah.
I think that would be in the starting lineup. It would be in the starting lineup. Yeah, second wide receiver starting lineup.
I wouldn't trust him.
All right, well, with that, that's going to close out our injury report, so let's get on into our new news. All right, so for our new news, let's get started with the first thing. Jacob Eason is looking to play at least the full first half of the preseason opener. Now, with Carson Wentz being out, that was kind of expected, although they did sign a backup quarterback just to push him a little bit more, but Jacob Eason is going to be getting that full first half of the preseason opener. Now, what do you think is going to be happening with Jacob Eason? Do you think he's going to do well? Do you think he's going to kind of struggle?
I think he's going to struggle for a little bit. I mean, really, we haven't seen him in the NFL that much, and he's going to need time to adapt to this high-level profile. I know he's been in the league for like 1 or 2 years, but he's been a backup. He hasn't seen any playing time on the real field, and first quarter usually is all starters, so he's going to need to play out his heart to be able to keep up with this NFL defense.
Well, with Jacob Eason, he has spent a year behind Phillip Rivers, who was one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. He obviously wasn't as good last year.
Slow your roll.
He obviously wasn't as good last year, and there are plenty of but he has put up numbers.
Top 50 max,
which is good. You want to be trained by someone who's top 50 all time.
I don't know, man.
I would say that is good training for a quarterback like Jacob Eason.
He's going to need that good training.
He was an experienced veteran and now he's sitting behind him. He got to sit behind Carson Wentz a little, Carson Wentz is not really someone, but yeah. Mostly his injuries are what's keeping him out, but he's an okay quarterback when he plays. But yeah, so I think Jacob Eason, he's going to be a boomer bust kind of guy for me.
Absolutely.
I think he could do very well, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions in that first half. Maybe he could even go off for like 180 yards. I could definitely see that out of Jacob Eason.
He's gonna need a miracle performance.
To me, it wouldn't be that much of a miracle as it would be a good performance.
Maybe.
But anyway, let's get into the next quarterback dilemma. But this one is going to be Trey Lance. Trey Lance is not going to be getting first-team reps from Kyle Shanahan in the 49ers offense. Now, does this surprise you at all?
No.
Yeah.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to do what Andy Reid did with Mahomes and Alex Smith. The thing is, Trey Lance, not Patrick Mahomes. Jimmy Garoppolo, not nearly Alex Smith. Alex Smith was way more of a veteran, and he was way better than Jimmy Garoppolo has ever been.
Yeah, and Jimmy Garoppolo's prime wasn't even close to Alex
Exactly.
Smith's prime. Now, Alex Smith, he kind of stayed at his prime for a long time, but it wasn't as high as some other guys.
Yeah, it wasn't that good of a prime, but he stayed at it and was consistent with it for that long.
For a long time, led a lot of teams, and was very good and very good mentor for Mahomes. But to me, Jimmy Garoppolo has not shown me anything that you want to see out of a mentor.
Yeah.
He's not someone you want to be mentoring one of your young guys. Now, yes, he's played in the NFL for a few years, but he hasn't completely developed.
Yeah.
And he's obviously not that great. As you saw last year, he coming off that injury, he still wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But with that, Trey Lance not going to be getting his first team reps, which could be big for the preseason. You might not be looking at Trey Lance doing well this season because getting these preseason reps for Trey Lance, he might get some. I think he will. Maybe a quarter and a half a game, but still you want to be playing a full half a game for your number 3 overall pick, and without doing that, you might have a problem in the future for the season.
Oh, yeah.
Now, next season, I expect he'll be totally fine. But end of this regular season, he might struggle a bit if he does finally get the starts. All right, well, with that, let's get on into another quarterback dilemma. Here we have the Broncos. Broncos obviously trading for Teddy Bridgewater earlier in the offseason, but now it kind of leaves a matchup between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. Drew Lock has been performing very well in the training camps and is basically neck and neck with Teddy Bridgewater in the quarterback battle. Who do you think is going to win the starting spot?
I think it's going to be Locke just because I don't know. It's tough. I'm going to switch it over to Bridgewater. I think Bridgewater is more experienced, and so he knows what he's doing. Locke has a lot to prove, and he hasn't proved it the past 2 years. And if Locke does win, it's his final year. If he doesn't boom this year, he's out of Denver.
Yeah, but to me, he is the incumbent quarterback, so you might see him just staying up there because he has that repertoire with all the other receivers there. Now, again, Cortland Sutton was injured last year, and he's going to be back, and that's going to be a big part of their offense. But 2 years ago, Drew Lock did get that repertoire with him, so they're going to have a rapport with each other, and it's going to be a connection that Teddy Bridgewater doesn't already have. Yes, Teddy Bridgewater is a veteran, but Drew Lock has been doing very well in the training camps, and you're definitely going to see him, I think, start in preseason games, and as long as he can continue not throwing interceptions, not necessarily throwing touchdowns, but not throwing interceptions in the preseason games, he's going to maintain that number 1 spot on the Broncos roster.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, next, talking about people doing well in training camps, we have Mecole Hardman, Rashod Bateman, and CeeDee Lamb all performing very well at their respective training camps. Now, these guys are all second or even third wide receivers on their teams, and do you think that you could see them potentially going up to number 1? Obviously not Mecole Hardman with Tyreek Hill there, but do you think you could see CeeDee Lamb popping up over Amari Cooper or Rashod Bateman popping up over Marquise Brown?
The most I could see would be Rashod Bateman. I don't see CeeDee ever going above Amari, honestly. I mean, he's got potential, but not right now. Rashod Bateman, Marquise Brown is hurt. Sammy Watkins is on and off every week, so who knows? Maybe by week 8, if Marquise Brown isn't performing, Sammy Watkins isn't performing, Rashod Bateman goes and takes that number 1 spot. He's a really good wide receiver.
I could definitely see Rashod Bateman eventually becoming that number 1 receiver this season. CeeDee Lamb, to me, I think very similarly to you, where he is a great wide receiver, but Amari Cooper is just better.
Yeah.
And he's going to be there until he leaves the Cowboys. Now, that's great for the Cowboys because they honestly won't need Amari Cooper if he's asking for another big contract. If they have CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, you've got two great wide receivers right there, and you honestly don't need Amari Cooper if he's asking for a lot of money. So with that, McCole Hardman also, he hasn't shown off pretty much in these last 2 seasons where he's been on the Kansas City Chiefs. This year he might look for a breakout. Do you think he's going to break out this year?
Sammy Watkins is out of the way. He's most likely the number 2 guy. Mahomes usually goes to his number 3 guy a lot. He goes Kelsey, Hill, number 3. And if they're locking down Kelsey and Hill somehow, he goes to his number 3 guy. He'll go to Clyde, too. I mean, they got a lot of options down there, and McColl's finally going to move up to number 3.
Talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he did well last year, but they didn't really utilize him at all. Do you think they're going to utilize him a little bit differently this year than they did last year?
Absolutely. I feel like they're finally going to... Well, now they have a way better O-line, so they can finally start running the ball a lot more. So they can utilize the run game, utilize him in the run game. And then they can also use him as a passing down, too. Send him out for a route. Don't use him just for the run game. He'll definitely have a breakout year.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think Le'Veon Bell had anything to do with last season, him not doing well?
Yes. I just think Le'Veon Bell took too many reps from him. He didn't really get a chance to show his ability. Le'Veon Bell is a really bad teammate, really bad person to sign. I mean, he's calling out one of the best NFL coaches of all time. Like, everyone loves Andy Reid, and you're calling him out? Ridiculous.
Now, Le'Veon Bell, to me, I didn't think he stole reps, per se, because he didn't get that many reps per game. He really didn't. I did have him in fantasy because I accidentally traded for him. So, in having him for fantasy, accidentally, obviously, definitely didn't trade for him at all.
You did.
But I watched him week by week last year. He did not get carries. And to me, he wasn't really stealing from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But I still think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be used differently. I don't think they used the run game enough. And especially with this improved O-line, I feel like Andy Reid will be more confident with what the runs that they're running. And instead of just doing trick plays and passing, I think they're actually going to utilize like a standard running game a little bit into their normal offense.
I can see that, yeah.
All right. And with that, that's going to lead us on into the next part for our new news. Some signings for the Saints. The Saints signed both Devontae Freeman and Quenton Alexander too. Quenton Alexander, very quality linebacker, and Devontae Freeman going to be a good backup just in case Alvin Kamara or Latavius Murray even gets injured. I think Devontae Freeman versus Latavius Murray is actually going to be a pretty close matchup. Devontae Freeman in his prime was very good running back. Obviously not in his prime anymore, but he's still a good running back, and I think he's going to challenge Latavius Murray for those backup carries, and he's going to really help that Saints team to mess with other offenses or other defenses whenever they're running the ball or not running the ball if they have 2 guys in the backfield.
Yeah.
You got anything to add with that?
No.
All right, then let's go on to the Bears and back to quarterbacks. Andy Dalton is still planned on being the number 1 quarterback, and he's going to start week 1 for the Chicago Bears. Now, this isn't really as surprising as it might sound. Andy Dalton was signed in the offseason, and they're going to want to make that signing seem like it counted. They did draft Justin Fields. Justin Fields has been doing very well in the offseason, but they're going to want to go with the veteran guy for that week 1. Let Justin Fields see how it's run in week 1 from the sideline. Maybe he even gets a couple reps in that game. But then the next game, and probably the rest of the season, I say he's going to start week 2. I think he's going to start. I don't think Andy Dalton starts more than 1 week.
I think he'll start. Depending on how they're doing, I say that he could start at the most the entire season. But I expect him to go halfway through the season. Management's like, this guy's terrible, put in the rookie. That's just what I think will happen.
I don't think that they're going to wait that long because you see all the Bears fans, they're so excited for Justin Fields, obviously.
Bears fans also aren't very smart.
Well, yes, but they're Bears fans.
They rush Justin Fields. If the management really rushes Justin Fields just because of the fans, I hope his career doesn't pan out.
To me,
because Bears fans are just...
To me, it is not rushing the quarterback. You see a bunch of other first-round quarterbacks that are starting year one immediately. You see guys like Trevor Lawrence, you see guys like Zach Wilson, who are coming out the gate and just going to start for their team. I think Justin Fields is in that same tier as Zach Wilson, and I think if Zach Wilson can start, Justin Fields can start too.
Well, when you look at the Jets, every quarterback in that quarterback room, none of them have ever thrown a single NFL pass before.
I thought one NFL pass.
Who?
I don't remember, but
exactly,
I saw
one NFL pass. Meanwhile, the Bears, they have... do they still have Nick Foles?
Yes, they do.
They have Nick Foles, Super Bowl champion, Andy Dalton. He's had a pretty solid career whenever he was in Cincinnati. All right in Dallas last year. You can't put Justin Fields up to those guys yet. Not yet.
I think Justin Fields is talented enough where early in the season, week 2, week 3, he takes over that starting job. And that's going to be something that we're going to have to watch, that quarterback battle between Justin Fields and Andy Dalton. But we're going to see more on that starting in the preseason and how the snaps are going to be given out throughout that game. But let's get on into the next part. We have Dwayne Haskins. Now, a surprising name that you probably haven't heard in a while. Dwayne Haskins doing very well in camp for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Ben Roethlisberger obviously getting pretty old here, and he's definitely out of his prime, not doing nearly as good as he used to do. And they're looking for someone to replace him. Could Dwayne Haskins be that guy?
Yes, absolutely. He was drafted 15th overall. You know, he doesn't have any high expectations anymore. There's not like a bajillion eyes on him watching to make sure he doesn't mess up. You know, now he's a backup. He doesn't have all this pressure. He just has to do what he does. You know, I mean, Big Ben's getting old. He's obvious. I feel like he'll be a good successor for him, but I still think the Steelers their offense is not looking good.
And obviously, tomorrow for us and today for you guys watching us, the game is going to be played tonight. The Hall of Fame game, Cowboys versus the Washington football team. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Why did I say football team?
I don't know.
I was just thinking Dwayne Haskins. Sorry. But yeah, so Haskins looking to get at least a quarter of play, I think. I think he might even play a full half.
I can see it.
If he's starting behind Ben Roethlisberger, I think Dwayne Haskins has a good shot at playing a full half of football for the Steelers. And we're going to have to see how he does, because going up against that Cowboys defense, he shouldn't have too much of a problem.
Yeah.
But again, that's something that we'll have to watch. So let's get on into the final part of our new news, something that I actually didn't even hear about until we started talking about this episode. Apparently, the New York Football Giants had a team-wide brawl in their training camps.
This sounds stupid, and it doesn't seem like it should happen in an organization as storied as historically good as the Giants. How do you let this happen, Joe Judge? How do you let an entire team brawl happen? And how is Daniel Jones at the bottom of it? Mr. Elite Ball Placement, dude. Out of Duke University. Duke! He shouldn't be in a brawl. Half these guys, oh man, they're not, it's not looking good for them.
Yeah, that's definitely not something you want to see as a Giants fan. Obviously not getting along very well, but...
And your way to punish them is drop F-bomb monologues while making them do sprints the entire field. That is a weak way to punish them. A terrible way to punish them.
And definitely going to have to work around that to start this season. It's definitely going to be in their minds for their first preseason game, but they're going to hope to get it out of their minds by the start of the regular season. And with that, let's get on into a little bit of a fun segment here. That's going to close out our new news, but we're going to get on into some of our thoughts on Madden 22 ratings. Now, obviously, Madden 22 ratings just came out, and we're going to tell you what we think are our 2 most overrated and most underrated players in the new game, and what we think their actual ratings should be. So let's get started with our overrated Madden ratings. Alright, so Connor, you had J.J. Watt as overrated. He's a 94 overall right now.
You're telling me that J.J. Watt, a guy who barely did anything last year, is the same rating as his brother who finished second in Defensive Player of the Year, he should not be a 94. I'm sorry, but if you're... TJ should not be a 94 either. He should be higher. But JJ shouldn't even be in the 90s, in my opinion. I'm saying, like, around an 88 overall. Like, he should not be 94. 88 is his high, alright? He barely did anything last year. I don't see him doing a lot this year. He's out of his prime. He's really not a 90 overall. I'm sorry.
All right, well, I'm going to talk about my guy. Now, this one, I think a lot of people would agree with me on this one. I thought Tom Brady was massively overrated. Tom Brady, he is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, likely the greatest quarterback of all time as of right now. He's rated a 97 overall. He is 44 years old.
He's rated higher than the MVP.
How is he rated higher than
I get
Aaron Rodgers?
Mahomes being a 99.
Yes.
But, I'm sorry, but he's rated higher than him? What?
Tom Brady was the benefactor of one of the best super team football teams of all time. And he's going to get bailed out with a high rating. Yes, Tom Brady is still good. And I think he should be a 92 overall. Obviously, still better than almost every quarterback in the game. But he should not be above Rodgers. He should not be above some of the other guys in the league. But he is, based on these EA sports rankings, definitely should be a little bit lower as he's exiting his prime.
Yeah.
I think maybe he's got 2 seasons left as a great quarterback. And maybe he'll have a couple seasons as a good quarterback. But past then, again, people have been saying this for years, though.
Yeah.
People have been saying this for years. So I'm not really coming out of the shell right here, just saying something random. Eventually, it will happen.
Yes.
It will happen at some point. He can't play until he's 70 years old.
Hopefully.
That is not possible. But we're going to have to see when that is. I don't think it's this year. I think he's still going to be great this year. I think he's still going to be great even next year. But coming after that, he's going to start regressing. And he might still play on good teams, but you're going to see kind of what we saw 2 years ago with the New England Patriots, where he was throwing more interceptions. He wasn't looking as sharp. I think he kind of got rejuvenated joining the Buccaneers, and I think maybe this year he'll still be good, but having that many rings, having that already being the GOAT, there's not really much more that you want with your story, your career, than to just maintain what you've done.
Yeah.
You're not going to go over the top and try and be the best right now. You're going to just say, I'm not bad still.
Yeah.
Because everyone's saying, you suck, you're old. He just doesn't want to be that.
Yeah.
So with that, let's get into your next player that you think is overrated.
Rob Gronkowski, the man who did really nothing until the playoffs, really the NFC Championship game. He did nothing all season last year. And he is an 86 overall.
Yeah.
80s. I lost a couple of brain cells trying to figure out why he's an 86 overall. And I haven't had time to look up all the tight ends that he's better than or has higher ratings than. But I think he's like the... I don't want to...
Fifth best?
I'm saying fifth.
Sixth?
I think like
no,
fifth
Austin Hooper. Yeah, so I think he's the 6th or 7th best tight end in the game right now. And that's just not true.
No, it's not. It's really not. He should... I'm saying he's still in the 80s, but he's not an 86 because that's just... He didn't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just... Overrating these Bucs players are ridiculous. I'm saying he should be an 82 overall. Because obviously he's still one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. And he can still go out for a route and catch a touchdown every now and then. But not an 86. I'm saying 82 overall.
Yeah, and Rob Gronkowski, I remember talking about him a lot in our playoff episodes the last season on the FoF Football Podcast. And I said a couple times he was going to be breakout player of the week, and he just never did that. He disappointed a bunch of times whenever I would pick him. And I would agree with you on that one. But let me get into my actual next player. Basically the same as Rob Gronkowski to him as it is to me. I think Antonio Brown is overrated by 4 overalls. Oh, Antonio Brown rated an 86 overall in this Madden. Antonio Brown is out of his prime.
He didn't do anything.
He has off-season
Super Bowl.
He has off-field problems. He didn't do anything until the Super Bowl. Yes, he's still talented. I think he should be an 82 overall, like Rob Gronkowski. But you have guys like Jarvis Landry and Courtland Sutton who are better than him, who I think both of those guys are better than Antonio Brown right now. Right now, I think Courtland Sutton and Jarvis Landry are better than Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, a third wide receiver on that team. Yes, they have two other great wide receivers who are obviously on top of him. But he isn't an 86 overall talent. So
what is up with these guys? EA overrating the Super Bowl champs. It's kind of frustrating.
I think we had 3 overrated Bucks players and 1 overrated JJ Watt. But with that, let's get on into who we think are the most underrated Madden ratings.
So, what would you do if I told you that a top 3 safety in the NFL, top 3, and he is not 3, is rated as an 89 overall on Madden? Minka Fitzpatrick, wow, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. 89 after what he's done, an 89 over.
If you have seen the outrage from this rating right here, you probably agree with us. But it really is if you're a Steelers fan. Although it's probably just more frustrating for Minka in his signing money deals.
Yeah,
his negotiations.
It's terrible.
It is not a good rating for him. He is a better safety than almost anyone in the league. Obviously, you got a couple safeties better than him, but he's still a great player.
Exactly. I'm 89. Go up 5 ratings. 94. That's better. That's really good. I mean, obviously it's hard, but I would say he's at least a 94 minimum.
All right, and with that, let's get on into our next underrated player rating. Now, this one, I had mentioned him earlier, Courtland Sutton. I'm going to say he is an 82 overall right now. 82 overall for Courtland Sutton. He has been amazing in the games he's played. Yes, he has been injured, but he has been a surefire wide receiver target for whoever's been quarterback for that Broncos team, which, mind you, has not been good. The quarterbacks for the Broncos have not been good since Peyton Manning left. And that's basically when Courtland Sutton
Whoa. Don't sleep on my guy, Brock Osweiler.
Oh, wow, yeah, Brock Osweiler. So good.
Paxton Lynch.
But, Courtland Sutton has been amazing even with all those guys. He's still an 82 overall right now. That doesn't make sense with me. I think he should swap places with Antonio Brown, go up to an 86, and, Antonio Brown obviously down to an 82. So let's get on into Connor. Who's your next guy?
You're telling me that the most valuable player of the National Football League is a 96 overall in Madden. I don't know. It's frustrating. Madden messes up these ratings so bad. But this guy is a 96. Obviously, I get Patrick Mahomes being a 99 overall because it's Patrick freaking Mahomes, dude. But obviously, Mahomes number 1. But the MVP should be 2 no matter what. If you're going to put Mahomes 1, MVP 2. No matter what happens. I don't care. But he's number 3 behind a 44-year-old quarterback. It's ridiculous. He should be a 98 overall.
Yeah, and I didn't put him on this underrated list mostly because
I get that he's a 96.
Aaron Rodgers is already a 96, and you can't really improve much on that. Although I do think he's underrated, you can't improve much on that.
But he
rating.
should be improved on that rating, and he should be a 98. It's ridiculous.
All right, and finally, let's get into this last rating right here. I had CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is rated an 81 overall in Madden right now. He has been amazing in training camps. He was amazing last year as a second wide receiver. He put up insane numbers.
Yeah.
He's going to continue that into this year. Yet ranked an 81 overall. That doesn't really make sense to me. He should definitely be an 85 overall at minimum. Now, I don't think he should be, insanely high because he is still young and he's still unproven, but he is proven enough that he should be an 85 in my eyes. But with that, that is going to close out our Madden player, our fixations, our critiques on the ratings, our most ridiculous ones that we thought we saw. And with that, we would get on into our Q&A session here, but we didn't have any questions from our last video, so make sure to put some comments down below if you want us to answer your questions on fantasy football, what's going to happen in the football season, you know, even NFL drafts for next season, who knows? Who do you think's going to go number 1 in the draft? Is it going to be DJ Uiagalelei? I don't even remember.
It'll be me or Derek Stingley. I don't think there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think you're cornerback talent?
Yep, absolutely.
Cornerback?
Quarter.
Oh, quarter.
Yeah,
okay.
I can sling the pigskin
QB.
like Uncle Rico, no doubt.
Gonna be better than Joe Montana?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'd love to see that here.
They're
That'd bring
gonna
a lot
call
of
me
money.
Joe Wyoming.
Definitely gonna have to borrow some of that money from you.
Huh?
But anyway, we thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's been a lot of fun to record. Definitely glad we can get back into that football mood now.
Oh, yeah.
And tomorrow for us, and today for you guys should be watching that Hall of Fame football game, Dallas Cowboys versus Pittsburgh Steelers.
What do you got?
To me, it's tough, but I gotta go with the Cowboys here. Too good of an offense.
Don't talk to me.
Too good of an offense. That first half, they're gonna kill them. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we hope you have a great rest of your night. And we can't wait to see you in our next episode, which should be coming out 1 week before the regular season. All right. Have a great rest of your night. Peace.